Thank you, Mr. Jensen. Moving forward with the questions, how long will it take to take temperatures at bus stops? The touchless thermometer is very quick. It's only a couple of seconds to get a temperature read for each kid. Having said that, I guess it'll depend on how many kids are getting on at each stop. It's a very quick process. I've had it done in a number of places. How will 13 kids be socially distanced in a classroom? As I said, that's my biggest pod right now. We do have the space to keep them apart, 6 feet within a room. We're currently, the crews are working very hard to empty out classrooms, to make as much space as possible within rooms. And we're trying to keep them, we will be keeping them 6 feet apart, and then also working with dividers, so there's additional protection for students. Most of our pods are much smaller than that. The average is about 9. Is the district taking into consideration the transition to remote learning due to the pocket of cases in towns that are located in the district? I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. We definitely will have guidelines for when we have to close pods if there are quite a few cases within the district. That will certainly be an ongoing conversation if it seems that cases are rising in the area. Obviously, we're going to be working very closely with the health department. And as always, we have to follow the governor's mandates. He has put out cut points for the point at which schools can remain open or can open at this point. And so we will, like we did in the spring, have to follow his guidance and then that of state and local authorities. Will the in-class learning be live instruction? No. As I said, other than the Zoom meetings in the morning, it will not be live. We found that in the spring, this was not, that model did not work well for our families with the exception of 6th grade. We may revisit the possibility of doing live instruction as the year progresses, but we're starting off with a completely asynchronous model. Someone said, oh, my student has 3 teachers listed in a classroom. I do have 3 teachers in one room. The rest have 2 throughout the building. The reason for that was we worked hard to make sure that we had teachers with experience in the upper grade levels in ELA and math because the curriculum there is involved. And so I had one teacher that I didn't have for the entire day. And so there's 3 teachers, an additional adult being in that room in the morning. There was one exception for that 2-teacher rule. So the children in school will be taught by the teachers and not via Chromebook videos, both. So in the flipped classroom model, we provide all initial instruction in video. And so I'm asking teachers to pre-record their instruction. These will be brief videos which give students an overview of the objectives of their learning, teach any vocabulary that students need to do, give them indications of what their work is. And those videos will go out to everybody. Teachers in the classrooms will then have time to guide students through their work. They can spend more time with individual students, correcting any misconceptions they have, and giving them guided practice. So it's a little bit of both. They'll be using some of the videos in the classrooms while students are here, and then they'll be working individually with students to complete assignments. Okay, for 504s, will they be allowed to leave to take tests, or will they need to stay in their pod within the classroom? They will need to stay in their pod within the classroom. Typically, we have a separate location for testing with minimal distractions, but with some of the pods being as small as 4, we will have to accommodate for kids taking assessments within the classroom pod. We just don't have the ability for students to move around like that. We don't want to expose them to other adults. Someone says they have not received the mailing for 6th grade. It did go out near the end of last week. If you still haven't received the mailing, I'd say tomorrow or the next day, just give me a call. Most of the information in the mailing I did post to the website and set out via email. The only thing that you will not get in the website or on email is your child's teacher assignment. And if you shoot me a quick note, I can just email you back what that is if you're still waiting for it. Oh, good question. So can students with IEPs attend school every day? Not right now. Right now, we want to get started in the safest way possible. I believe our district has put together a very conservative model to keep people as safe as possible. If we had some students attending every day, they would interact with an exponential larger number of students. So in order to limit the interaction of students with others, be they adults or other students, we're on the AB model for now. As the reopening plan outlines, this is something that we will review after the first few months of school. And if things are going well and everyone's safe, we can then see if it's possible to make changes for students who need more support. Question. So if there's a very small pod, can we combine them so that students can have a dedicated teacher for remote learning? I can't do that because these numbers are changing all the time. So we have had quite a few parents make decisions just in the last 2 days. And so if I were to combine a very small pod and then a family decided that they did want to return to school, I wouldn't have a place to put them. So right now we're leaving the pods as is, and we're going to wait for the first few weeks of school to go by to see how things shake out. So we're not making changes to class lists until we have some time to adjust to the school year and see how things are going. If after some time has passed, it looks like we have steady enrollment, of course we can reconsider those things. Am I understanding that distance learners will have a short call first thing in the morning on their A or B day and no other calls with their classrooms or teachers? Yes, they will have morning meeting, and then they will have the assignments that are shared out every day. So the live time will be for morning meeting. So it'll be a Google Meet so that they can see and interact with adults and students. And then they have the ability to interact with teachers either while they're here or through the technology. So 3-6 students will have their Chromebooks and they will have access to all those videos and assignments online. Teachers will be grading the work that's on those platforms. In the lower grades, we'll use things like we did last spring. The Seesaw app is very popular, and some teachers used email or the Remind app to communicate with teachers that way. Will students be able to borrow books? We have closed the library because, again, all of our shared space, or typically shared spaces, have been closed. We are thinking about ways that we can have students still check out books. Quite a few books, as a side note, quite a few books were checked out last year and never returned to school. So at the start of the school year, I'll be sending home some paperwork. In that paperwork will be the Chromebooks agreement for parents to sign off on, and the handbook for that for students in grades 3-6. There will be the code of conduct, which we have to provide to all students each year. And there will be notices to some parents who have library books. Please do look around for them if you get a notice that your child checked out a book last year, and please return them to school if at all possible. I'd appreciate that. For this year, we're looking for ways, whether through book cart or online sign-outs with our librarian delivering books to classrooms, but we can't have the library itself open. Will kindergarten students' assignments be posted or sent home the day before? The cutoff is the morning of, so assignments are to go out by 9 a.m. the morning of, or as early as possible. Last year, many teachers did their assignments a week in advance and shared them out. Other teachers did them more in real time, but the basic cutoff is for 9 a.m. the day of. Is there an online component for K2 on their home days? Yes. So just like for the students in 3-6, the K2 students will have assignments, videos, and assignments for ELA and math that are shared home each day to be completed when they are at home. So yes, they will have work every day, some amount of assignments. At the board meeting, one of the reasons mentioned for bringing students back for the hybrid model was lack of reliable internet in our district. This remains an issue on the home days for the pods. How does the district plan to address this year? So I'll speak to this a little bit, but I'll also invite Mr. Jensen to jump in. Last year, teachers were very proactive about letting me know the families that struggled with internet access. And I met with many of them this July. I absolutely am aware that it is a problem that persists in the district. Spectrum and Fios worked all summer to bring access to many families that did not have it last spring. So that problem has been solved in many cases. I have a running list right now of families that I am still aware have problems with internet. So for grades 4 through 6, I've already provided that list to the district, and we're going to work on ways that we can help support those families who are truly without internet and can have it. In K2, the requirements for internet are less steep. All students really need to do is be able to watch a YouTube video. So if there's an older child in that house that has a Chromebook and there's internet access, they can watch it, or a cell phone generally is capable for accessing those videos. Again, if families are experiencing real trouble with the internet at home, I encourage them to reach out to me, and we can support in whatever way is possible given the situation. Patrick, did you want to jump in and add anything to that?
You have to unmute.
I've unmuted you. Or did I cover it?
You unmuted Pat. Wrong Pat.
Oops. There you go.
Perfect. We do have some challenging terrain in our district. We're 162 square miles. I remember about 5 years ago, most of the central part of our district was on a Verizon wireless map was white, where there was zero coverage. As Jean has said, there's been a build out. I don't know where the funding came from in our community, probably federal funds, but there's been a huge infrastructure build out over the summer. So if you haven't had internet in the past or unreliable internet, I would talk to your neighbors, because I mean, just on my street alone, they've added Verizon Fios, they've added Spectrum, and I also have my old Zito Media from Southern Cuba Cablevision. So options exist. We have purchased through Verizon some MiFis, which are mobile Wi-Fi hotspots. And Jean has said she started a list last year with families that were challenged. So we've bought units to connect with parents. Unfortunately, our community, I can't make a guarantee they're going to work, because the community infrastructure is so poor in some areas, especially if you live down in a valley like Salmon Creek or somewhere like that. You're going to have a lot of challenges still with that. Mike Fall, our tech guy last year, did hook up. We do broadcast Wi-Fi into our parking lots, actually right outside the district office or the high school cafeteria. You can drive by and connect, download assignments. I know that's not as convenient, but we are making efforts here. I think we purchased 25 units so far. But if you need MiFi or Wi-Fi hotspot, please call Jean. They work pretty well if you have some sort of signal, but that's really the challenge in our town.
Thanks, Patrick. A question about daycare and the hybrid model. We are aware that this is very challenging for some families, that having kids in school every other day does provide for some daycare issues. We did elect to go with an A/B schedule to see students as frequently as we possibly can, and to create really the safest model that we can for the staff and students in the building. So I know that childcare for days when students are not at school is an ongoing issue, and I really appreciate how hard it's been on families to teach students at home, to work and take care of everything. None of you are alone in that struggle, and I've just spoken to many, many parents about how hard it's been. I really appreciate the hard work that parents have done to kind of hold their lives together. We are aware, but wanted to really start the school year off in the safest way possible, seeing the kids as often as we can. So that's why we went to the AB day. If your child stays home, can they log in and get their work done? Absolutely. We're asking students to bring their Chromebooks back and forth to school every day for just that instant. If they get sick, they can still access their materials. How will this affect their attendance? That's a great question. We can check attendance here. when students are in the building. We don't have the ability to do that because we're working on an asynchronous model when students are home, but that's something that I need to work out with the district office about how to account for students on the days that they're not here. But yes, students, again, have access to materials of the day, whether they're in the building or not, same materials. Did the district seek any community input on the reopening plan? Yes. Patrick, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, we worked through our safety committee. The safety committee met back in July as we got information. Unfortunately, the time frame for getting this done with our governor providing notice at the last minute was quite a challenge as the rules continue to change. But that's really, and I personally talked or emailed with a couple dozen parents trying to figure out needs and what their thoughts were in the process. It's been challenging because the rules are changing about every week or two on what we can provide, what we're not providing or allowed to do. But basically, it's the information coming out of Albany, very slow and very, very cautiously moving forward. But everything is updated on our webpage right now. So take a look if you have information, if you need any information.
Thank you. Will extra tutoring be available for students who struggle with the virtual, or do parents have to find their own? So this is something that I think will evolve as the year goes on. We will, as I said, provide classroom teachers to help parents with questions and students with academic support after school hours. Tutoring is more involved, and I think we'll have to see how it goes. Again, we have very limited resources to both run a hybrid model where students are at school and at home, as well as support our 100% distance learners. So I think that, we're going to support families that are keeping their kids home as much as we possibly can, but we do have to see how the year rolls out and who's available. Teachers, I have to say, in the spring, I think did everything they possibly could to support students in their learning. Our staff is incredibly dedicated and supportive, and I think that teachers will do the best to support students that they can. So in terms of if you're struggling, if your child is struggling with distance learning, absolutely reach out to me about what you need and what will be helpful, and I'll do everything I can to support that. Will they have to wear a mask all day while at their desk? They don't have to. But again, we have a model that's pretty robust in terms of safety. So students will be distanced. They will often be wearing their masks, and we're also working on providing dividers in the classrooms. Teachers will provide mask breaks during the day. These will absolutely happen during lunch when students are eating, while they're outside, and then also at the teacher's discretion throughout the day, giving kids time to take a break from their masks. This will vary depending on the age of the student and their ability to tolerate the mask. So instruction, in some cases, students can leave masks on other cases, teachers can give them breaks to take their masks off. Do we have guidance on gyms today says these, we haven't talked about having fans and windows yet. I haven't heard anything about that. What will physical education look like? PE is going to be very difficult this year. As I've said in some of my correspondence, because of the nature of exercise and exhaling droplets, singing is very difficult. Exercising indoors is very difficult. I'm in conversation with our specials teachers about providing physical activities and PE lessons that students can do. We've talked about obstacle courses, things like jump rope that kids can do when they're outside. So the PE teachers are working along with Mrs. Haight about, an area in PE about what is good for students to do to stay in shape, to get their exercise, and those will be provided out to teachers each week. Then teachers in their pods will be doing those lessons with students. So for example, Mr. Johnson might give us some kind of obstacle course that's set up outside. And then our third grade team, when they have time for specials, they'll take kids out and do that obstacle course. That's one example. So we are going to do specials to the best of our ability, but in the matter of safety, doing physical education like singing or playing instruments indoors is not possible at this time. If you have to sign students out. Yeah, you can contact the office just like you have done in the past. We are asking, to have very few adults in the building, but you will have to come in and sign your students out. And again, just like I said, assignments will be posted. So anytime a student is not in school for whatever reason, the assignments will be available to everybody. Sorry, I'm trying to read and answer at the same time. Can noise canceling headphones be supplied to students? That's a great idea. Yeah, we have a variety of headsets in the building, and we could probably do that. Sure. How it would work if you decide to do hybrid schooling, but later opt to do 100% distance learning? Just let me know. We have right now about 62 students who are on 100% distance learning. If you let me know because you'd like to keep your child home, we will just inform teachers and then your student will move to remote learning. That's a fairly simple change to make. The opposite is a little bit more difficult. So if your child is on 100% distance learning and you decide that you'd prefer for him or her to come to school, I can make that change relatively quickly because class lists are set. However, if you need transportation, that will require some time. Our transportation routes are very tight right now with social distancing on buses. And so I can't promise to immediately be able to get you a bus ride. But if you want to go to distance learning, that's definitely not a problem. Should children wear face shields in addition to masks? That's not recommended by the CDC. Cloth masks are recommended, face shields are not. They haven't said that they are a benefit. Are morning meetings mandatory for students who are choosing a virtual model? No, it's an option that we're going to offer to all families, but they are not mandatory. Oh, will 100% remote students have a time schedule to pick up Chromebooks? Yes, I'm working on that now. I know that Mr. Carnicelli on the other side has a similar issue, and I'm hoping to coordinate with him on a day when remote learning families can come and pick up Chromebooks and sign them out for children. How is Google Meet different from Zoom? That's a great question. I don't know the answer to it. I've used Zoom. That's been my primary mode of communication with groups. My understanding is that Google Meet has the ability to take attendance, which is useful, and integrates very easily with our other Google suite. So with Google Classroom and Google Mail, Gmail. So our first training was offered this week on that, and I think we're all going to get up to speed on Google Meet soon. How long will recordings be available for online viewing? My hope is that they're always available. That's another benefit to having the asynchronous model. If your child is confused about something, they can always rewatch the videos that we've created and go back and review that material. So it provides for a great review tool for students as well. They can go back and look at lessons and assignments that they created in the past. How will lunch work? So right now, our biggest lunch group is 30 students, and our smallest group, I believe, is 10. So we have plenty of room with the cafeteria and half of our gym. So our cafeteria will be set up with tables. Those tables will have dividers on them. And we will have students come in one grade level at a time to get their meals, sit down, remove their masks, and eat within 6 feet and a physical barrier. In the pods that have a little bit more students, we'll have a second overflow into the gym where students can sit in there. There will be adults to help students with things, but that's how lunch is going to work. Breakfast, as I said earlier, is going to take place in classrooms. Will the kids get mass breaks and recess? Absolutely. Why aren't Chromebooks issued to K2? We were very fortunate to be in the position to actually have a one-to-one robust program when the pandemic hit. So I was ever so grateful to have Chromebooks in grades 3 through 6. The work that we provide to students K2 by the nature of that learning doesn't require a device as robust as a Chromebook. As I said earlier, it really, all a student needs is something on which they can watch a video. The work that they will complete, which often requires writing and small motor function, is going to require a pen and a packet. If you need a device, if there's nothing for your child to use at all, please do contact me, and your child's in K2, and I'll see if I can help with that. Yes, so a person said, is 6th grade full remote? Will it be asynchronous rather than synchronous like it was last year? Yes, to begin the year. We're going to start the year with an asynchronous model. It would be very difficult for teachers to do what they did last year, which was meet in Zooms with all children at the same time with students who are home, in addition to having the students directly in front of them. 6th grade is the one grade level I could see going to a synchronous model later in the year, but we're going to start out asynchronous for the year to begin, see how it goes, and see what's possible, what'll work best for families. For the home portion for kindergarten, can they do that at night so working parents can assist after work? Yes, absolutely. That's actually a benefit to the asynchronous model, is that because you and your child do not need to be online when school is in session, you can help your child whenever that works for you. So yes, that's absolutely true. It does not have to be done during the school day. And if that ever becomes, you feel like you're falling behind, absolutely reach out to the teacher. Everyone is understanding that we're trying to do the best that we can. And so absolutely. When is the cut for deciding on keeping kids home or not? We asked that we got those decisions last week, but I understand that families wanted more information before they made their final decisions. The way that we've set this up, with our class lists remaining stagnant and with the asynchronous learning going on, it's not too difficult for us to move kids from distance learning and back into the classroom. So I'm essentially making that a rolling decision. You can let me know if things change for you and your family, and we can work it out as we go. The one caveat to that, of course, is, as I already said, transportation. We cannot make fast changes to provide busing. So as long as people are aware that that will take some time, you can let me know what you would like to do as things progress. There's a request on the website that everyone complete the free and reduced lunch application. What is the impact on state aid, and what is the plan for meals on off days for students opting to be fully remote? Patrick,
I can
can you speak to that?
add into that. The request is, we're sitting at about 45% free and reduced lunch at this point in time. And we do know there's a number of families out there who would qualify, but do not fill out the application.
Mm-hmm.
If we can breach 50%, I believe that's the exact number, 50%, we would be able to provide free lunches to everyone. And so we have neighboring districts where there are no charges for lunch or breakfast. And so we're just trying to get an accurate count to get that number to reflect what the need of the community is, and hopefully provide truly free lunch, breakfast for everybody. So that's why the application, that's why that, I believe you might get a second school messenger email in the next couple of days to help with that. But that's really, and for the state aid, we hope to get state aid for every student we have. It's really important that we're provided the funds our community needs to run our schools. We are about 45% based on state aid. So that number is a pretty stable number. Fortunately for our community, our population has stabilized over the last couple of years. I think last year we actually saw a nice increase in the number of students we serve. But that's one of the reasons we need to take attendance, even on remote days, is the state is requiring us to put those numbers into the calculations for aid. So if we don't have the aid, I mean, this year we're anticipating, we've been told by the governor, a 20% reduction in state aid based on the economy crashing back in April and May. They lost, I don't know how many billions in revenue. They're started to release funding, but one of the challenges now is that that number may grow from 1.5 million to a higher number based on categorical aids, such as some of the special ed costs, excess aid costs, we may not be getting what the governor promised us in the end, partly because they do not have the funds at the state level to pay us. So we're looking at every avenue to secure revenue at this point.
Thank you. Might it be possible for the school to create a list of individuals willing to do private tutoring? I've had a couple, a volunteer and then another local agency reach out to me about tutoring. The school can't really endorse different groups because there's a lot, as you know, a lot of guidance that needs to be done and liability around adults interacting with kids. However, it is something that I'm looking into about how we can at least be a conduit for families that are interested in academic support outside of the school setting. So there are definitely some groups that have reached out to me and just community members who want to help, who have reached out to me. I just have to find a way that's safe to do that, to make recommendations if we can as a district. How will you students, distance students when outside? Is recess something that will be happening? Absolutely, recess will be happening. It's going to be a real change for students to be in one room with one group of kids throughout the day. And so the need for play, the need for physical movement is going to be very important for them. So I've created a schedule for the playground to make sure there aren't too many people on the playground at the same time. And the staff will make use of other outdoor spaces on the campus. Luckily, we have a beautiful campus that has a lot of outdoor space. We need to teach our students how to behave at school. And part of that is going to be teaching them how to social distance on the playground and games that they can play that fall within the safe measures for social distancing. So we are working on that, but definitely going to have plenty of recess. Are students allowed to wear the gator style masks around the neck that pull up? That's a good question.
I think guidance on that is evolving. There was just a study last week. I don't know if it's the thickness of the material. I think it's very thin. That is something I'll probably talk to the health department this week about. But those gaiters are, some of the studies have found them to be less effective than actually a 3-layer or a cloth mask or a 3-level medical mask. So I would be, I think a lot of sports teams are using them is what I've seen, a lot of baseball teams. But I think if you have a cloth mask or a 3-ply medical mask, I think those are much more appropriate for school.
All right. Just a few more questions here. Are fully remote students counted for the school state aid? I believe so. Will there be staggered pickup and drop off times? I'm going to see, once everything shakes out, I will do counts of how many personally transported students we have on each pod day. And then if it looks like it would be helpful to stagger times, I will. Otherwise, I'll ask parents to drop off students between 8:45 and 9 and to pick them up at 3:20. Where there'll be meet and greet opportunities for children with their teachers before the first day of school. No, there won't. With UPK, we're working on a plan for those teachers to do some video kind of greets with students and then maybe do something outside if we can work that out. But no, we're gonna start on the first day of school that day. The high levels of positive coronaviruses in the town of Genoa and Scipio.
PlayStation, right? No.
Sorry, I'm not entirely sure about this one question.
I could probably answer that. Initially, when this virus spread in our community, my understanding is after talking with the health department numerous times, is that it was isolated to a couple of our larger farms. Larger farms tend to have a lot of workers living in close proximity in homes. There was also a lot of frequent travel to visit families downstate, especially in the New York City area, which was especially hard hit. I think since that time, farmers have taken this far more seriously about the potential, and they put restrictions on their staffs. They're monitoring the situation. I see the farmers up around the corner from me. Anytime they're in close proximity, now they are wearing masks when they're inside. So those numbers are high, were high. I think they've stabilized. Most of the recent numbers, I think last week we saw a cluster, one day 4 people, the next day 5 people were tested. I can't know names and I can't know specific locations, but a lot of those people, of those 9 people, the health department informed me had traveled to a wedding out of state. So people are going into COVID hotspots around the country to visit with family, to go to events, not practicing social distancing, not practicing masks. So at this point, I think the numbers, as I said, as a county, we're at 0.8, which is well below the thresholds for if school is to close again. So we're in a much better situation than we were before, and we're also in a much better situation than most of the states in the country. And the list of states that are excluded for travel for quarantine is in the 30s. I think it's in the high 30s still, but it really is that traveling to other locations has been really the primary cause at this point. I mean, you can go on the Weather Channel. On the Weather Channel, they have a county. It's updated on a daily basis. They can look at. I look at Auburn. I look at Ithaca because I'm right between the two. They give you a daily count. It's been averaging between 0 and 2 each day, which is really tremendous considering you have 100,000 people in both populations, or 100,000 plus. The other place that you can look for infection rates is go to the web page, and embedded in this second to last update from the health department, there's actually, I put in there a link that connects with New York State Reopen, which gives you infection rates by county throughout the entire state of New York. And that's a really good resource also to look at what's going on around us. The number of infections seems to have really dropped since May. Continues to be very stable, which is good news for us, and that's really the reason we get to reopen school. So,
Thank you.
I see a question in there I didn't answer. I don't know if it was the third or fourth part of one of my responses earlier. Getting meals to students on off days. I did talk to Loretta Van Horn today. She's in charge of the cafeterias. She's in charge of operations for the district. What we're looking to do is that if your child is on a hybrid model, they will come in on an A day. At the end of that A day, before they leave school, they will be given a breakfast and lunch for the following day. So that's one way we're going to work with our hybrid students. And for remote students, what we discussed today is transportation is still critical, key to making this all work. So we will provide pickup meals over the summer, or not over the summer, but over the spring. The rules were flexed by the state considerably, and we're allowed to give multiple days of food. If families drive over, communicate through our cafeteria folks, communicate through our business office, let us know what you need for food. We can make arrangements. We also had a number of volunteers who were able to drop off food for a lot of folks. But just communicate with us, we'll get you food.
Thank you. All right, just a few more questions. What percentage of families haven't responded yet? We did get responses, but then again, people wanted more information. So I understand why some of them got to us late. We did send out all the confirmations last week. And so we're looking, right now to finalize everything in the next couple of days. How is the school supporting non-English speaking parents? I met with most of our ENL families in July to hear about their experiences and talk to them about their concerns for the coming year. Our ENL teacher will be working with those students while they are at home throughout the day, as well as our migrant education specialist has been working with them throughout the summer, and will continue to be doing that remotely whilst those students are home. So the ENL families that are in the school building will be supported with the adults here, and then on the days that they are home, they are going to be supported by those educators. Will the playground be sanitized in between groups or pods? No, I've been told that this is not necessary, but students will be washing their hands or using hand sanitizer after leaving the playground. Oh yeah, Patrick just answered this question about meals. Yes, this is being recorded and I will post it online, though fair warning, I started the recording about 5 minutes in because I was nervous and forgot to press the button. Sorry. Will teachers be hosting any remote curriculum nights? Yes, our parent-teacher conferences will be done remotely, and we'll be making a plan for curriculum or open house nights as we can. Obviously, we can't have everyone come in the building.
125. That's actually a good amount. That's
As someone that's new to school, how will he know where to go if there's no meet and greet? Oh, that's a great question. Please shoot me a personal note about that, and I'll make sure that the teacher contacts you and talks to your student prior to coming to school. That's a very good point about students new to the district. Thank you. Someone else asked if a pod is considered close contact. Patrick, can you speak to that in terms of the health department?
Yeah, we've talked to the health department numerous times about what is and what the term they use is proximate contact. And they've actually, it's become a little more conservative term over the summer. Basically, that is a situation where somebody's within 6 feet for a period of 10 minutes. So if you're in close proximity within 6 feet, within 10, for at least 10 minutes, I think it used to be 15 minutes, they lowered that number, but that would be considered proximate contact. For the notion of the pod, that would be a determination made by the health department. They will look at that. They will look at the cases. We have to do what we call contact tracing. And so one of the advantages of the pod model at the K-6 level is your child is only going to be in contact with a few other children perhaps on the bus, but they will be 6 feet apart with masks. And then just 2 adults is our goal. We have hired a couple subs to come in every day. So we were not going to be hiring subs that like the day before they worked in Union Springs or Moravia per se. Our subs will be dedicated to our building for at least the first 30 days until we get more comfortable with what this arrangement looks like and the things that we have to do.
Thanks. 3 more questions. What's my best guess for the percentage of time children will be wearing a mask? That's very difficult to say. As I said, starting the year, we're going to spend a lot more time taking breaks, playing, making sure students are comfortable. I suspect older students will spend a higher percentage of time wearing masks as tolerated than younger students. What is the number that would close school, and what is the plan if that happens? So again, that's dictated by state and local governments if we actually have to shut down. And so we have to work in concert with those. The plan will be your students will stay with their teachers and their pod, and they'll just go to remote learning. So at that point, they'll be pretty familiar having done their alternate day schedule for the start of the year. In the event that we do have to go fully virtual, they'll stay with the same teachers, they'll stay with the same method of instruction as they were doing on days when they were not in the building. How will cleanliness sanitation be monitored to address that it is addressed adequately between every A and B plan? And then a connected question, which is our last question, how will restroom breaks work sanitizing between pods? And so, Patrick, can you speak to the plan for cleaning overnight?
Yeah, I'm not the person to speak to this. Loretto could speak much more detailed. Harold could speak. We will have additional staff on hand during the days, so there'll be additional cleaning throughout the day. High contact surfaces, doorknobs, areas where there's multiple, like the cafeteria tables, those will be cleaned between each use as they are now. Really the cleaning protocols are going to have to be closely adhered to. The plan does provide details of exactly what's going to be washed each day. We did purchase 2 what I would call fogging machines, electrostatic cleaners. So after a room is cleaned, surfaces are clean, doorknobs are clean, floor is clean, it's down to the baseboards being cleaned. Then they will use the fogger machine, which has electrostatic cling So that will actually, the product in there is a sanitizer that will actually cling to the underside of tables, to the underside of chairs. It will cling to everything. So the process will be closely monitored by administrators and also the supervisors for the cleaning department. So something that has to be done. One of our conversations with the health department really focused not as much, their concern is not as much contact on physical surfaces. Their concern is most people catch COVID by proximate contact, less than 6 feet, with people without masks having conversations. If you have that conversation for 10 minutes with somebody who's tested positive, you will most likely be quarantined and most likely be all isolated, and most likely will test positive. I think there's far less transmissions through contact with surfaces compared to the respiratory droplets.
Thank you, Patrick. A few more questions popped up here, and I'll try to respond to you individually. I do encourage anyone that has further questions or things that come up as we get started to please do email me. I have been able to get back to people pretty promptly, and also it adds to kind of my thinking and our FEQ docs if you do have questions for me to address. So again, my email is amadeoj@southerncayuga.org, and you can find all of the staff contact information on the website. I will again be communicating out to PK families early next week about the plan for UPK. And then again, just a few additional details as we approach the start to the school year. As things progress, as the year opens, if you have challenges, please definitely reach out to teachers, reach out to me, and we'll do our best to help. I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us tonight and everything you've done to work together with us to support students through what's been a really challenging few months. And so thank you again, appreciate it. Right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for attending.